I'm Anna Gillum. I work for USU Extension in the Home and Community Department in Sevier County.
I'm Kate Chappell. I work for USU Extension in Wayne County. I have a background in culinary arts and I'm a registered dietitian.
And today we're going to be making strawberry-rhubarb jam with an automatic jam machine.
So we are using a recipe from a respected source, which is very important both for the success of the recipe and for food safety. You can find recipes on the USDA website or in this home canning guide. It is researched so that each of the recipes is going to work the way it says, but it's also going to be canned safely so that you can safely feed your friends and family. The recipe today is from this ball book. It's on page 30, very easy to use. We've started by measuring and cutting our fruit. So we have fresh strawberries, fresh grown rhubarb. You don't have to get very advanced with it. Wash it, slice it up. We're just doing little pieces. We need 2 cups of each. So we have our 4-cup measure. We slice it in there. Then we're gonna add our ingredients to our automatic jam machine. Now, Anna had this machine in her office. Neither of us had used it, so we've tested it a couple times, and now we're gonna make jam for you. First, we add our fruit. Oh no, some are stuck. Where's my spatula?
The fun part about using this machine is that it frees up your stove space. So this is just counter space that we're taking up, and it'll do what we need it to do all by itself.
Yeah, we're using bottled lemon juice. You always want to use bottled lemon juice in a recipe. Even though you have beautiful fresh fruit and you're tempted to also use a beautiful fresh lemon, you need to ensure that the pH or the acidity of the lemon juice is the same every time. Pectin is what we're going to use to thicken this jam. It is derived from fruit. It comes in a variety of types. You can get liquid, you can get low sugar, you can get regular pectin. There's a variety of brands that make it. And you have to check the recipe for the correct time to add it. This recipe for strawberry rhubarb jam says to add the berries and lemon juice, whisk in pectin until dissolved, and then bring to a high heat. Because we're using an automatic jam machine, we're going to add it right in. Then we're going to turn the machine on, and it's going to do the stirring for us. We're pushing the jam button because jam has chunks. If we use the jelly button, that's for jam made with juice, which doesn't have any fruit pieces in it like what we have here.
The automatic machine will manually start for 21 minutes, but you can increase or decrease that time depending on what you need for your fruit. We're gonna try it on its automatic setting and see where it goes. Our automatic jam machine just beeped after its 4 minutes of stirring, so now it's time to add the sugar. Ooh, look at that. So we're gonna gradually dump this sugar in while it continues to stir. It smells good. There we go. Sprinkle the sides a little bit. And we're gonna let it run until it beeps again. If you don't have an automatic jam machine, most recipe books will have instructions of how to do it on your stovetop. So just follow your recipe as it says.
While that cooks, we're going to get our jars ready. When you get them in a case or out of your storage, they typically have the lids and bands on them. You want to wash each of your jars and your lid and band. We don't want any dust or particles on the seal. If you're not sure, there is a section in the back of this and most books that gives you instructions on how to prepare your jars. You want them to be clean and sterilized, and if we're putting a hot product into a jar, we want the jar to also be hot. You can do this a few ways. You can submerge it in the hot water you're preparing for your hot water bath, which is to sanitize is the wrong word, to seal the jar and make sure there's no bacteria so that it will be shelf stable. To heat our jars, I have a pan of water over here. It's heating up. I'm gonna put them in face down. That's gonna steam the jars. You can also put them in, fully submerge them in hot water in your water bath while the hot water gets ready. This way, when this is done, you can finish the process. It's very easy.
The machine just beeped, so that tells us that we're done. So we're gonna go ahead and press cancel. And look at our jam.
So you'll notice there's a lot of foam on here. Foam tastes good. Foam doesn't look nice in our jars, so we're gonna skim it off. My grandma's favorite thing to do with it was use it to get me, AKA the kids, out of her hair while she finished the jam making process, because foam tastes great on a spoon or on bread or on pancakes. Definitely don't throw it away.
It's beautiful.
Right, so once we've skimmed off a good chunk of the foam, and like the foam's not bad, it's not gonna cause problems in your jars. It just turns into like a weird chewy texture if it gets in there. So we've skimmed a bunch of it out. We'll snack on that later. We can try it. While the jam was cooking, we got our hot jars ready. They're hot, don't worry. We're gonna put hot jam in a hot jar. There's a bunch of different funnels available to use. That way you know you're not getting jam everywhere.
Oh, and it looks beautiful. Whoop, I overdid it.
Oh, that's okay. Get a spoon. So we want to fill these jam jars to a 1/4 inch headspace. This tool here usually comes in a jam kit, and it has little ruler marks to tell you what your headspace is. And headspace is important for our processing time and for food safety, to make sure a recipe is safe. So Anna filled it. She thought she filled it a little full, but it looks like it's a 1/4 inch to me. So once we know the headspace is correct, we're going to wipe the rim of the jar, make sure we don't have any jam on it anywhere. Typically your funnel will prevent this, but you never know. Then we're going to put our lid, center it on there, we'll put our band on. We're not gonna tighten this really tight. We just want finger tight. So just tight enough to hold the lid on. Once we fill all our jars, we're going to put them in our water bath so that we can process them to make sure they're shelf stable.
So that we can get all the jam, we're gonna remove the stirrer and go soak it in a sink because it's hot and sticky.
Okay. So we can see with our ruler that we want a 1/4 inch headspace, which means we need a little bit more for this one. And you can do it with you can update your headspace level with a spoon or a tablespoon.
How do you
either
know?
direction, one way or the other.
How do you know which notch to follow?
It has little teeny markings in it. So this one's a 1/4 inch.
But why use a 1/4 and not 1/2 inch?
The recipe said to use a 1/4 inch.
Aha!
Which means when they made this recipe to test it for bacteria content after they had run it through a water bath and let it sit on a shelf, this was the most successful
Interesting.
level. Some recipes like pickles or whole peaches or something like that might say an inch headspace, and then you would set it on the inch mark and you would only fill the jar to there. But when you're doing whole fruit, you don't use teeny jelly jars either. You use quarts or something. So every recipe is different. You want to double check you've got the right headspace. So now it's time to do the water bath process for our jam so that it can be shelf stable. This big pot is a pressure cooker, but we're not going to pressurize it today. The reason I chose to use it is that it has this rack that goes in the bottom so that when I put the jars in, they don't touch the bottom of the pot, which can break the jars. In most jam processing toolkits, they have this jar grabber. This is just to keep you from sticking your hands in boiling water or burning your fingers touching the jars. I think mainly my culinary background, I have a lot higher heat tolerance than most people. So if you've seen me handling hot jars and that's too hot for you, that is okay. You can use a hot pad or a dish towel. I am not tough enough to stick my hands in boiling water though, so I do like this jar grabber. When you put your jars in, you want to make sure your water is up over the top of the jar. You want to wait until the water is fully boiling before you start your timer. Now your time is going to change depending on the elevation of where your kitchen is while you're cooking this. We are in Sevier County, which is about 5,000 feet. That means we have to adjust our timer a little bit. I don't have it memorized though, so we're gonna have to look in the back of the book. Once this starts boiling all the way, we'll set our timer. The water process will happen. The heat will ensure that any bacteria inside the jar is killed so that when we put our jars on our shelves, they stay safe until we want to eat them.
Yes, so like Kate said, in Sevier County, we're between 5,000 and 6,000 feet elevation. All of your recipes are set for 0 elevation, so you need to check your elevation and adjust your recipe accordingly. So
there's nothing in Utah that's at sea level, so you're always going to have to
you're going to have to adjust. So in our USDA canning book, in the jam and jelly section, we went to their elevation chart, and you can see right here, if we were at 0 to 1, it would be a 5-minute time, but we're between 1,000 and 6,000 feet. So we're going to boil our cans for 10 minutes. If we were in Wayne County at Kate's house, we would go for 15 because she is above 6,000 feet.
As you can see, we're ready to start our time because this has reached a rolling boil. Big bubbles that I can't stir down, which you don't want to try and stir it, but that's the idea of a rolling boil. It's not just a few bubbles. It's nice big bubbles. So we're going to start our timer and put the lid on. When the timer goes off, we will take our jam out and let it cool.
Our timer just went off, so our cans are ready to come out of the water bath. So we turned it off, and we're going to pull them out one by one. Ta-da!
So some older recipes may tell you to turn your bottles over and let them cool upside down, but research has not shown that to be beneficial. Once these cool, you'll hear that pop of this little button going down, which means that the pressure has been maintained. There's a vacuum in that little bit of headspace that we left. Once that has happened, you want to actually take the band off before you store the jar on your shelf. The reason for that is if for some reason your jar becomes unsealed, oh, so you can already hear that one, the little button will pop up and then you can touch it and it'll make like a fun little snappy sound. But that also means that it's come unsealed. And if you didn't intentionally do that, like on the shelf somewhere, something happened, but this band is still on it, it can reseal the jar and that little button can pop back down, especially depending on like air pressure changes. And you may think it's safe and it hasn't come unsealed, but if it's come unsealed, something could have gotten inside. So you always want to store them. Once they've cooled off completely, take this band off and then store your jars on your shelf. So we've been doing dishes and kind of cleaning up our kitchen, but we've been listening to these little lids snap. And so we know that they're sealed, they're cooled off, and we're gonna put them in storage. So the first thing we do is take the ring off. That way we know if this seal ever comes undone for any reason and the food inside is no longer shelf stable, we will know. It's no fun when that happens because you do end up having to discard the food, but when in doubt, throw it out. Like, yeah, they're ready. They may not set right away. See how this one's still a little bit runny? And that's okay. Sometimes the pectin takes a little bit of time to work. I know with jalapeno jam, it can take up to 2 weeks before it's fully set. So canning and bottling sometimes takes a little more patience than we really want to have. So if you haven't done it before, the pop that everyone's talking about is just a very small Oh, you can kind of hear it. Put it by the microphone. So that's the sound that you're going to be able to hear. You can see that you can press on the lid and it has a little bit of give. The sealed ones do not have that give because the pressure inside has pulled that seal tight. Everything around here is connected. Nothing can get in. So you know that that's safe. If you store these with the ring on, they can release, but if the ring is there applying pressure, they could also reseal, and then you might not know that there is a potential food safety hazard there. Yeah, that they've popped or not.